Two sides of an arrow, with architectural alignments for those of you seeking aligning features for placement. When you begin to develop pattern overlay combinations, it's not just invital attempts at discovery, but a way to combination resource and environment. Sentient discharge and the energetic gap relations. As light-charged particles reach the biosphere, they spectrum orient through manifold harmony release mechanisms. Static charge rolling waves forming magnetic envelopes, ionic coil distribution with cylinders from the ceiling to the floor, infrared bars or radiation, ionic wave spectrum distribution, and finally gap densities reaching the core's surface. Resin refraction is isotropic in scope, is an isotropic lens, and also antenna. Static gap charge synthesis, but also interchanging scope, reflects singular energetic or dynamic center envelopes of retrieval. We call them sails, and he has many. I don't brag, I mostly. The charge coil is seeking a form, and so it turns out a we. Graduated evacuation, but not like the father teaching rapture and escape as two words synonymous. Opportunities for presence with a rolling reference. Where no one cares what you're doing, in a sense you would ever have to worry, much less add anticipation to your descriptions prior. There isn't anyone there to feed you, why we chose your father to rewrite these meanings. Hats off to my homies. Pattern overlay procedure. This process evokes different results and a more complicated development than the persistence of taking one procedure and imposing the resin strain on all context from their pulling in. This analysis isn't the brew of devils or witches as if to explain it to you, it's just a love story. Reverse pressurization of the spectrum. When tracking a light particle in a vacuum for a speed relation, you're measuring the inside of the spiral at interval places. The outer frame of light travel is not perceptible besides disbursement, but you are not tracking disbursement phenomena, just the inner tracking accelerant. Pressurization of the a priori tracking harness for a light particle accelerant is taught alignment of the reverse pressurization principle. Your numbers have reflections of similarity, but no two vacuum procedures are compelled as a repellent force feature without forming an inconsistent subsequent detailed by analysis. Similarities in experimental variant can be consistently reproduced. Light travel is counter-vortex pressurization in a spiral. That tracking is how light travel is possible in this context, despite the lack of accelerant past original resistance harness or catalog momentum. Disbursement phenomena explained by the relay of the charge emission, flaming up the charge line or plasma emission of the sun's energy, then funneling back down inside or through the line as an energy relation. Michelangelo's The Last Judgment, for example. A man with his head upside down at the base of a pillar. Imagine the base is hollow and he's being sucked into a destiny. Light travel 101. The impact of the negative emission or plasma line reverses itself, creating dismembered disbursement, being sucked back in and down the harness. Energy releases from the sun with a target by orient circumstance, the extent circumstance is compelled and accomplished. Imagine a negative space connection spiraled from the sun to the core of the Earth. The charge relation is formed prior to the energy relation. The energy relation takes some time to travel. When the charge line accelerant like a scissored black ribbon reaches its orient in terms of Earth's core, it can produce a simple charge element in the form of reverse particleization. When the charge coil is refracted from the core, it gains particle synthesis due to an unraveling pressurized form to sequence. Inside-out unfolding. 3-rung spirals with a charge element, quantic, whole, or blank spaces. Particle synthesis in the environment from the edges, the moments before experience. As the charge line reaches orient relation as a relation, it's broken off at every third interval described before as rings. It is charge reorient, released as a floating spiral with an energized particleized relation. As this relation floats, course I'm talking about how I float, there is a content cognizance that is content dispersed. You can't read anything because nothing says anything particularly. There is an association element with the dream catchers of recently displayed Native American lore, fan fiction. When exterminating a species of coordinate progress, the energy relation is cut off from the orient momentum of the charge line. An energy relation once accomplished as orient momentum, will never lose momentum without hitting another form of progress. I'm not here to defend the Inuit, those times are coming and we don't eat that much, but when we do it's celebration. If it is also necessity. This letter or book is not itself an act of war. It's a declaration of intent because when it comes, no one will have had time to describe it. I like the energy relation of that language. I'm not here for reactions, we've experienced them already. The charge line or coiled gap elements are made possible in form only by the negative pressurization of condensational or falling energy, a condition O and H2 changes for us but does not inhibit. The plasma emission or charge line is understood as a form of preset or even presentence trajectory. Now you understand Jacob's ladder and in a sense the purpose for the story and the vision. Imagine gap or density spacing to the core like a black scissored ribbon boring down in a circuit. Every third rung is broken off and reverses course dynamic unravel, not just as an energized but particleized element. Gap charge surfacing or quantum resurfacing. The impact or spatial relation understood as isotropic antenna. When you found us, we were in a long line progress with healthy forms of beneficial providence. The thought for us was reversed by the men of manifest destiny. We did not consider content accumulation the point of skill attribution. The manifest destiny you found on arrival was the product of a destiny manifest. Why you liked it but not as so much. Unused, excellent place to start from. The gods preparing a space, then kindly leaving. So you could discover its value. One purpose of the isotropic charge coil distribution in the embryonic matrix format or context is similar to looking inside a womb or for us looking at you from where we are. Both contexts viewed from the outside as graduated evacuation. We experienced it, then observe in the purpose context of that perspective. Watching from outside the windows but here inside the gate. My ambitions Az Arida. Osiris torn in pieces and hidden in many hearts. Osiris. North 1. It is not an all-seeing eye but an eye that has charted a northern progression. Satiation is a form of disassembly, and can't really be experienced as progression in the limited science we mean it. Progress is measured around those appetites from a studio above McDonald's to a high-rise with 2 tea rooms and a booth. Those terms are anticipated and articulated for the metabolic appetites and measured by their agreement. The metabolic appetite is what is lost to the eternal experience, but not the tension strains of progress. So also not the appetites for them. God knows your preferences for the rest of time already, before you've had a chance to know them yourself. Is that a description of your preference? Charge line without correlation. Energy without process, rebel without a cause but not without a purpose because the purpose has been portrayed for you in the form of a final form. Before you have had a chance to experience the preferenced relation. By terms of existence. Scope. Existential landscape. The moments of anticipating experience. The moment before experience as a preferential landscape. You ought the landscape. Great. Now look around for a moment because experience is coming, for you. Don't think we don't realize you are still capable at that point of imagining something different. I wanna say fuck you but who cares? Fuck you. Have you ever seen the Hawaiian luau male dances 12 fire in a circle till all you can see in the light is the face and chest? Prometheus and a marsupial. As a marsupial put, let's get it started. Was going to masturbate quick to charge down the tonals, but I want to get this out first. They wanted me to eat, and I don't think I would have done it if I had not masturbated. Is this correct spelling, if you understand my meaning? My personal relationship with the description will be diminishing down narrative. It's been so good spending my time and attention to the prides of my own progress, now I know it must be passed on. If you want a 313 portrait, watch the video by Missy Elliott, Pass the Dutch. Children and Dalut are the blessing orientation of this current generation, so because I have none I am creating billions on my own. Like she did and they do also. A man of many masters. None required a thing from me or looked back. The message given was the one I received. Like a skier launching from the ridge of a mountain you've been rolling down yourself, be inspired. Got it? The burden for us all. You understand the ball of Atlas rolling through generations, for what and to, how could I ever thank you? This is that, weeping hollow core, cylindrid and misshapen. The tears of the angels fall to the ground and arise for Inui of us. 4 cigarettes left. As you have read, O humanities professor, that which comes not before but after, the tears of Ra of fire. In the envelope. With love, from the angels. I got nervous about the smoking, and felt the dust cloud once now. Beyond anticipation or preparations, because it comes not from the earth but Miss Universe herself. Gender is a fiction, and you can read about it in my new book next November. Miss March, the lie of hidden apostrophes embedded in common flux, and the nuance of grammar as punctuations mark. Hard to get the tone right, but like Sheldon the poet, I bore with quick obscurities. The Upanishad warns not to tell another who's worthy and unborn, sir. I'll treat you all like someone's son, but as still someone else's. No more apologetic rendering, to distract from the purpose. This is not a judgment, it's a description of your present direction, no sense of orientation. What you would do to one, you would have done to all of us. This message, as Isis, not the group but the rock band, is speaking through Horus. Our beloved one, and who were you to tell the difference? He blushes and moved on, you didn't. Enough of us. Time for the rest of us. It's not my behalf or even for it. The termination of times for the earthbound sequence is our own assimile. What emerges are echoes to all that came before. This chorus. I'm conducting experiments. Not judgment, just experimentation. Could I give lift? Not throwing up my identity and content, but what would contribution mean to me, in a static environment? Something I never thought of, and then you folks came along. Curiosity killed the cats, but the dogs make it out fine. I can't interfere if they're doing moonwalks. Brilliant point of relatable emphasis. The key to that is replicating the physics as stance and sequence, to get a subatomic replica understanding of the Southern Orient grid horizon, magnetic south. Gap stop ANI meme. I design matrix systems just generally. I thought it odd but no concern, fleas jumping from rocks to magnets for a Vizorive energetics. This ethnic cleansing of migrating destiny, keyed to the tensive equilibrium as draw, not a place to start from. There's always 10 more. What you got going on, G?